Hey guys, it's Ellie, and today I wanted to make a video about things I wish I knew before I applied to European universities. So I'm from America, obviously, but I applied to 6 schools in Europe, and the application process was so much different for the European schools than it was for the American schools. And I feel like going into it as an American at a high school that didn't really know how to deal with European school applications, kind of mainly focused on American school applications, it was definitely intimidating. And I watched a lot of YouTube videos to try and get the gist of everything. So I thought this would be helpful to put it all into one video for anyone who's interested in applying to a European school as an international student, specifically from America, I guess, because that's where my experience is from. I'm not sure if it would be different for students from other countries. Maybe not. I don't really know. You'll have to watch the video and find out. So yeah, I thought this would be helpful just to give some tips and let you know the things that I learned along the way to maybe help you start your journey. When you are applying to European schools, you are either going to be applying through the school directly or through UCAS, which is like the European website for college and university applications, kind of like Common App. If you're American, you know what that is, but it's just for European schools. Or you might be applying through the school directly. Like I go to Trinity College Dublin and I applied through them directly because they were not on UCAS. But all the other universities in Europe that I applied to were on UCAS, so it really depends. So the first thing that's different is that European schools don't too much care about your extracurricular activities, whereas that's like a big thing when you're applying to American schools. UCAS does have a section where it talks about like work experience and volunteer and like stuff like that, but it's not a big thing. They don't really care about what you've done outside of academics. They kind of really only care about your academic grades and your scores. That's what's important to them. Also, when you apply, there's a thing called conditional and unconditional offer, which is not a thing in America. And this relates back to grades again, where sometimes you will need a certain score on an exam to get into a school, but you might not have that score back yet. For example, an AP that you're taking at the end of the year. So if you are applying to a school and they require you to get a certain mark on an exam, but you haven't taken or gotten that exam grade back yet, but they still want you at that school, they could give you a conditional offer, which means on the condition that you get this grade, you are accepted into our school. Or you could get an unconditional offer, which means we don't need to see any more of your scores, you're in, you did it, congratulations, you're done. So unconditional is the offer you want, because unconditionally you got into the school. But conditional does happen with European schools because they care so much about the grades, so sometimes grades are required, but you don't have those grades yet. Also, when you're applying to European schools, they require you to submit an essay called your personal statement, which may kind of seem similar to you if you're American to your Common App essay, but it is very, very different. So the Common App essay, you really write about like experience that shaped you, some events that happened, ways you overcame it, stuff like that, you know, a little story. The personal statement is very academic. It is, hi, this is why I want to do my course, because blah, 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 here are my scores, here are some books I've read, I really like math, I really like this and that and that, but like academic. You know what I mean? The whole point of the personal statement is to let the school know why you want to do your course. On that note, European schools are different than American schools because you cannot change your major once you get here. Also, they don't call it a major, but like, it's fine. Once you are going to a school for your major, you cannot change it. There's like a certain window in the beginning for some schools, like Trinity I think you have until like October something, and you can potentially change your major, but really when you apply to a school, you're applying to a major at that school, which is very different than America, where you're applying to a school and then you kind of can like pick your major from there. You can like change it after a year. You cannot do that in Europe. So if you're not sure what major you want to do, like you really don't know, probably shouldn't go to a European school. Probably wouldn't be the best idea because you cannot change your major really once you're here. So that's why the personal statement, you are writing about why you want to pursue your major, because they want to make sure that you're sticking to your major. That is the whole point of the essay. This is what I want to do, and here's why, and I'm not going to change it because I'm committed to doing this. Also, a lot of people told me, well, okay, so there were 2 very different views on this when I was applying, and they're both right and wrong in their own sense. Some people think, oh my gosh, you're going to Europe, like that must be so expensive to like live in another country and go to school there, which like, yes, plane flights are expensive, obviously. However, the cost of schools in Europe is a lot less than the cost of schools in America. But it also depends, because other people will be like, oh my gosh, you're going to school in Europe, it's so cheap there. Yes and no. For example, I'm from New York, and in New York there's a thing called a SUNY school, which is a state university of New York. And if you're from New York and you go to a SUNY school, the cost is a lot less for you than it would be for an out-of-state kid, because I don't know, they want in-state kids. I don't know, the cost is a lot less. So it would be like maybe 30 grand a year opposed to like, I don't know, 60 grand a year. You get it. So the cost to go to school in Europe for an international student is kind of the equivalent of like a state university if they decrease the price for you if you're in-state. So it would be like 20 grand a year, 30 grand a year, like around that ballpark. For European students going to European schools, it is a lot less. It's like maybe 7 grand, 3 grand, sometimes free. So yes, European schools are cheaper than American schools, but like they're not like dirt cheap. It's not 7 grand or 3 grand a year for American students. That's for the European students. So on that note, European schools really like international students because we're paying so much money. And this is definitely one of the reasons why international students are more likely to get into a European school than European students are. It's easier for us to get in with lower grades than it would be for a European student to get in with lower grades, because the school has motive behind getting us in. They want our money. Whereas European students are like, you don't have that much money to give us because we're not charging you that much, so you kind of need to meet our grade expectations. So if you're American applying to a European school, this does not necessarily mean you'll get in. I got rejected from multiple European schools, and I had good grades, I like to think. But you definitely have a better chance of getting into a good European school than you would a good American university. Also, what I noticed when I did get into school is that like in America, there are usually Instagrams for a college and like the accepted students. It'll be like, oh, Harvard 2025 commits. I don't know, something like that. That's not a thing in Europe. Absolutely not. Some Americans might make that Instagram. I feel like when I saw them, it was made by Americans, so that's why I'm saying Americans. But European students don't do that because European students don't find out what school they're going to until like maybe a month or less before they go to that school, which is a weird concept. So us international students find out way ahead, depending on when you apply, if you're going to be going to that school or not. So I applied at the end of 2020, and I found out either in like December 2020 or January 2021, I don't really remember. But like, I found out relatively fast and like months before I even came here. I had time to think about it and commit. However, the European students this year specifically literally didn't find out what college they got into until a week or two. I think it was a week before they had to start classes, which is insane. And it's because European schools care so much about academics, and there's a big test that you have to take, and the grades don't come out until like a week or two or a month before college starts. So Irish, English, whatever, those students, they don't have their grades yet. They don't know what school they're going to because those grades determine what school they go to. And then when they get them, they have like a month, and then they're in school. So they don't really have time to like make a little Instagram page and like make friends and see who's going to their school because like they just got in. Whereas us international students, we know for months in advance, and we're like, okay, who else is going to the school? So also, when you then find those Instagram pages, it's not going to be European students on those Instagram pages posting like, hi, my name is Lucy, and I'm from Essex. I don't know. Because they don't know. They don't know if they got in yet. So it's going to be all international students on those pages. So if you're like, why are there only international students? It's because Europeans don't do that. They don't do those Instagram pages, and they don't even know if they're going to school yet. So, isn't that fun? Also, speaking of which, iMessage, from what I've learned, is not the biggest thing over here. I don't use iMessage really anymore. I just kind of use WhatsApp and Instagram and Snapchat to communicate with people because that kind of seems like the vibe. WhatsApp is a big thing, especially for like college group chats. That's what all my college group chats are on. It's just like an app on your phone for texting, but it allows international texting without added fees. So that is like what they use here, WhatsApp. You should get that. It is very important, and join the group chats for your school and your course. Also, during applications, the admissions process is very different than the American admissions process, whereas in America, again, I'm not like an admissions counselor, but from what I've learned, the admissions process in America is like, oh, the admissions counselor will like look at a bunch of applications for all the different majors and all different people, probably from the same state or the same region, and they'll be like, oh, we like this person, this person, this person, this person. But European admissions process usually is like someone from the department that you're applying to will be looking at the applications and picking people for that department. It's not like some admissions counselor is going to be looking at geology and theater. That's not going to happen probably. It's going to be like someone in the geology department is looking at the geology applications. Someone in the theater department is looking at the theater applications. So admissions is very different for different people. Like I could have a 100 average and be applying to math and not get in, whereas someone with an 85 average is applying to theater and does get in, which again is because you're applying to the major, not applying to the school. So the admissions to each course is different, and it's not like, oh, you both have 100, you get in to 2 different courses. It's like, oh, well, you have 100, but that's not good enough for this course. But if you apply to this course, yeah, you could get it, if that makes any sense. And also, it's like rolling admissions usually, so you can apply up to a certain deadline and then get your response back literally any time. Whereas American schools, there's usually like a day where they give back the response, and they'll be like, oh, you'll hear on March 1st. But yeah, there's usually like a day that you would hear back on, or a lot of people hear back on, whereas European schools, they're just kind of rolling. It's like, whenever we feel like it. So that could be a good thing. You could get it back really fast, or you could be waiting a long time. You never know. So yeah, I feel like that was a lot of information covered. I hope that helped. Because those are things I definitely did not know before applying to European schools, and I think it's useful information. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you. Best of luck on your applications, because I know it is application season, which is why I'm making this video now. I hope you all get in. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching. Bye!